All right. And we are back. And we're here with another live stream. So, ladies and gentlemen, yay, welcome. Give everybody some time to come in. We're going to get started with the live stream in the next few minutes. We are going to be starting off with the Alien Biospheres video. So, that'll be a fun one. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Let me know if you guys can see me, all that fun stuff. Um, Again, just going to give a few moments for people to start getting in the chat, things like that. Uh, but yeah, hopefully everybody's having a good day, good evening, good morning, whatever time it is for you when you're watching this. If you're watching the replay of this, well, have I hope you're having a good day. If you're watching one of the clips that'll come out after this, then I hope you're having a great day then too. We're just here chilling, chatting, about to get started with the Alien Biospheres. So again, if you are a fan of Alien Biospheres, this is the time for you to be checking out. We're gonna be getting started at 8 o'clock. Gonna go ahead and get that, and after that, we do have some more videos to watch, or we can just do the or we can just play some games or something, however, whatever time it is by the time we're getting done with this. You guys know I'm a yapper, so, who knows how long this might go on for. Uh, but yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started at 8 o'clock. But yeah, man, so far my day's been good. I had the day off, so, just decided to do that. So that was cool. Relax mostly, cleaned up a little bit, had to make sure, I'm in the right place, mentally, personally, all that stuff. So, hey, had to get all that taken care of. Yap with a few friends. You guys know how that is. But yeah, it's going to be a fun one. Well, let me get this camera adjusted here. Do. I feel like this is about how I normally have it in other videos, right? Maybe somewhere around here with the extra borders. So I'll maybe have it, maybe somewhere around here. I feel good for people. I feel that feels good for me for right now. And then I can just mess with it later, just in case I need to, really quickly. Hiya. Okay, now we're working. Hiya, hiya, hiya. I gotta look over here to do it to my second monitor. Is that a good spot? Is this a good spot? All right, that feel like a good spot. 8 o'clock, guys. I'm gonna like this already. I know it's gonna be a good one. Let's go ahead and get started with Alien Biospheres number 12, Society and Cooperation.
This video is brought to you by Campfire. Campfire is the all-in-one online tool suite to help you flesh out your world-building project in as much detail as you want. You can create an account for free and get access to over a dozen different modules, including...
Guys, make sure you support Campfire. Campfire is a great website. Again, if you're just out there trying to do some like gaming or adventure games, you're trying to like make up the whole adventure and story, and maybe you're trying to like create a some type of book. Maybe you're trying to do some hardcore D&D. I don't know what you're trying to do, but this will help you with it. You'll get the script, everything out, have an area for like creating characters and have everything, so it's like you're in the right mindset to get everything taken care of. Maps, relationship webs, species, locations, build all of that stuff with this same website, Campfire.
Including world-building tools
Campfire,
like species, languages, religions, and magic systems, and narrative tools like character sheets, timelines, maps,
What y'all know about magic tools?
and
Come on.
relationship webs. Plus a manuscript editor that lets you cross-reference all your entries while you write.
Ooh.
And you can unlock...
Look at this. Campfire Learn. Y'all could be learning stuff too. Yo, what's going on? Anthrax Crab. That is a hilarious name. I've got to tell you that. That is a funny name you got there.
extra features, either with a one-time purchase or
But yeah, welcome in, Mr. or Miss Crab. I don't know. I'm not gonna gender you right now. Welcome in, Crab. You know, I hope you're doing well. We're just getting started. We're gonna be starting with some alien biospheres tonight.
Through a subscription for as low as 50 cents a month, meaning you only pay for the features you need. Everything you make is...
Oh yeah, make sure you get Skillshare, or not Skillshare, but Campfire. Make sure you get Campfire. This is some good stuff here. If you like D&D or any of that stuff, get Campfire. This is some good stuff.
Safely stored in the
maybe
cloud,
you're creating.
And you
maybe
can
you're a
choose
creator.
To either keep your work
you know, maybe
private,
you like.
or you can publish
I
your
want
project
to write a
on the
book.
Explore tab to share
Use
it with
this.
a community
Come
of
on.
thousands of other users and start building an audience of your own. Plus, you can
It lets you build in your audience. This is like a whole social media right here. Also, this is a kind of long ad. I ain't gonna lie. Shout outs to Oblivion. This guy can make some good ads.
access the Learn tab for in-depth tutorials and resources
He's getting some good ads
on all
right
sorts
here.
of writing and world-building topics. To sign up for Campfire or to learn more, check out the link in the description.
Go to the link in his description. Check out his links. Maybe check out one of his newer videos and go to those links. I'm not sure how long these links stay open. You know, that's just a personal thing. I don't know. Maybe they last forever. I feel like they have a limit. Check out his newest videos.
Last time, we explored the effects of ecological isolation on the island-dwelling clades across the planet.
That was some good stuff.
But in the meantime, the mainland clades will continue to diversify and develop new survival strategies, involving not only physical adaptations, but also behavioral ones. One class of behaviors that deserves special consideration is cooperation, which encompasses any behavior in which multiple organisms work together for each other's mutual benefit. At first glance, organisms cooperating with each other seems somewhat paradoxical. An organism that behaves altruistically, expending its own resources and energy to help another individual, will have fewer resources for itself and is therefore inherently more likely to die, and so won't spread its altruistic genes onto the next generation.
Yeah, but on the other end, if you think about it in a communal way, let me go over here for this. There we go. If we think about it in more of a communal way, then if you all work together, then that helps resolve the issues, and then everyone gets to share. If everyone's putting in their own and then also sharing with the group, that means the whole group is going to be better off for it. Like, everyone in the group wins in this scenario, versus just like, you know, maybe you surviving and then somebody else goes off because, you know, maybe they could put in one way that you can't. You know, it's about filling in, you know, within, like, this way is cool, you know, the altruistic way that works for some, but then there's going to be gaps in which you can't do in just life in general. So if you think about it, working as a group, you get people to help fill in the gaps of things that you can't do in life. You know, it's like society, life. This is like a team sport. You know, we gotta be working together. Let me get this back. Okay, there we go.
While a selfish individual will be able to acquire more resources for itself and will therefore be better able to survive and reproduce, meaning that natural selection will always favor selfishness. And yet, cooperation, both within and between species, is extremely common in nature, so there must be some circumstances under which organisms gain greater fitness from cooperating with others than they would from acting individually.
Yeah.
One of the more common examples of this occurs in mutualistic symbiosis. Contrary to its popular usage, symbiosis refers to any long-term association between two species, regardless of whether their relationship provides a benefit or a detriment to either one. This means that parasitism is also considered a form of symbiosis, as is commensalism, when one species receives a benefit without any net gain or expense to the other, while a situation in which both participants benefit is called mutualism. So far in this series, we've already seen several instances of mutualism, such as between the early chemotrophs and their algal symbiotes, and the coevolution between the chromatophytes and the Picopterans. Mutualism will be selected for if the benefits conferred to both species outweigh any costs to either of them. Although the algal symbiotes need to provide their chemophyte host with a portion of the sugars they produce, they gain the benefit of making sure the host they depend on stays alive and healthy. And in the chromatophytes, the cost of expending energy to produce nectar is outweighed by the reproductive benefit provided by the pollinators that the nectar attracts. But these are only 2 examples among thousands that will emerge across the planet's history. Some species may resort to entering mutualistic relationships in response to the ever-changing climate. As the Ice Age comes to an end, the mountains that once separated the coastal rainforest from the rest of the eastern continent will erode, allowing the species native to the rainforest to spread inland. However, many of the rainforest clades have specialized for lifelong arboreality, never once coming down to the forest floor, a lifestyle that's only possible because of the density of the rainforest canopy. But although the erosion of the mountains will allow the rains to reach further into the continental interior, the inland forests won't grow anywhere near as dense as they do along the coast. And in most areas, groves of trees will be separated by large stretches of open landscape that would be very difficult and dangerous for arboreal animals to cross by themselves.
True.
So they'll be confined to relatively small patches of territory with a suitable density of trees. To disperse to new areas, they may have to rely on the assistance of other animals. In Part 10, we briefly brought up pheresis, using another organism as a means of transport. Pheresis is considered a form of commensalism, since the pheretic species gains the benefit of increased dispersal without any positive or negative consequence for the host.
I'm gonna say a little negative. Like, I don't know if bro really wanted you on his back. You know, you probably don't even speak his language. You know, it's just like hopping on somebody's back, like, or it's more like jumping in somebody's car. You know, it's like, are you the Uber? You know, did we establish this in nature? Like, you take me here, I'm gonna bite some flies off you or something. Like, get some of your parasites off. Like, did they establish that yet? I don't know.
This will be an optimal solution for animals like the pronacanthids and the other dolichostracans, as while almost none of the terrestrial lophostomes are very mobile, the arboreal dolichostracans are especially cumbersome on the ground because
Hey, shout outs to this artwork right here. I do like this one. You're being crazy. Let me just... Okay, just had to make sure the volumes was good. My microphone's being weird. Have you ever seen a 9-pistol shrimp goby pair? Oh, wait. Ever seen a pistol shrimp? I have seen a pistol shrimp. The one where they hit so fast. I don't know why I thought I read 9 pistol shrimp. It was a pistol. I know what a pistol shrimp is. They hit so fast, it's like a sonic boom. When they do it, it's like bam, they got you. That one's actually really cool. I mess with that. I like that. I enjoy that one.
For crawling along branches. Pheresis will provide a means of dispersal for at least one clade of pronacanthids, who may climb onto the backs of passing herbivores to be ferried across the steppe and scrubland to reach new patches of forest. Not all herbivores are likely to tolerate a 20-centimeter pronacanthid clinging to their back, but the presence of the pronacanthids does provide them with some advantages. For one thing, the pronacanthids will feed on the malacoforms that infest their host's hide, ridding it of parasites in a similar way to cleaner fish and oxpecker birds.
Okay, so they're establishing that now. They are going to eat off some parasites and stuff. That's cool.
But the pronacanthids also offer the herbivore an extra degree of defense. The pronacanthids' fringe of venomous spines, whose dangerousness is advertised by their vibrant aposematic coloration, will be enough to deter most predators. Perhaps one clade of leptopods evolves to seek out and accommodate the pronacanthids to protect itself like a living suit of armor. And once this relationship evolves, co-evolution will ensue, with both clades specializing to make the relationship as efficient as possible. Because the pronacanthids are now their primary means of defense, the leptopods won't need to invest much energy and speed, so they can afford to become more heavily built, with broad backs to provide space for as many pronacanthids as possible. And as the pronacanthids become increasingly reliant on the leptopods, they may specialize for pheresis by turning their limbs into pincer-like appendages to secure themselves to their host, much like how remoras have adapted their dorsal fin into an adjustable suction pad to attach themselves to larger fish. We'll call these pronacanthids phylactocanthids, and their leptopod hosts hoplopods.
I love these the naming convention.
And their leptopod hosts hoplopods.
These are good names here. The guarding spines and then the protected feet.
But as this instance of cooperation evolves, another will need to occur simultaneously. The greater the number of phylactocanthids on the hoplopod's back, the greater the collective defense they can provide. meaning they'll have to cooperate not just with their hosts, but also with each other. Sociality is the degree to which individuals of the same species, or conspecifics, tend to associate with each other. Unlike mutualism, sociality...
They form relationships with goby fish. The shrimp build the house and hunts. The goby fish uses its eyesight to scout for danger. What? What? I ain't gonna lie, I didn't know all that. That's actually that's so freaking cool. Bro's like, yo, I'll build the house, I'll protect us and stuff, but I'm bad at seeing, so I'm gonna need you to see the danger for me. We are in the ocean. I need to be able to see. The fish is like, I got you, brother. You don't even got to tell me twice. I will be looking all around all the time. You go out there and do your destructo damage fist, super power fist thing every time you see somebody. And then every time I see somebody, I'll tell you, I'm gonna say left, right. You just got to go that way. Bam! Hit him with the claw. Hit him with the super claw. I imagine that's how fish are communicating with each other. They're saying things like that. The super claw. Hit them with that. Kamehameha wave. They're probably using all those things, right?
Comes with an unavoidable cost. Unlike mutualism, sociality comes with an unavoidable cost. If the organisms are members of the same species, they'll be competing for the same resources, which discourages cooperation, so the vast majority of species are solitary. For sociality to evolve, there needs to be some benefit that outweighs the costs of this intraspecific competition and results in a net gain for every individual involved in the social interaction. One such benefit that frequently drives the evolution of sociality is mutual protection from predators, since having more individuals around makes it easier to keep an eye out for danger and presents a more formidable barrier against attackers. This will be the case for the phylactocanthids, as well as for the camptopods, alabrachids, and the many other herbivores across the planet that have evolved herding behaviors. In most of these species, these social groups will have a very loose structure, and the animals that comprise them will simply tolerate each other's presence without forming any lasting social bonds. Consequently, these social groups will be fission fusion societies, fluctuating in size and composition as new members come and go. But other animals may evolve to form more long-term associations with each other. Although the Leptopterans originally evolved in forests, some species may eventually spread into open habitats like the steppe and scrubland. But whereas in forests they can find food in the canopy, far out of reach of the predators on the forest floor, in the steppe they'll have to descend to the ground to forage for malacoforms and other small prey among the brachyphytes, where they'll be much more
Yo, I gotta call it out.
To forage for
I wasn't expecting full-on animation right now.
Small prey
that's a good animation right there.
Among the
that was a good... One more time.
Steppe, they'll have to
shout-outs to the extinction... underscore XYZ.
Send to the ground to forage for malacoforms
this is a good
and
one.
other small
Look at
prey
this.
among the
Bam.
brachyphytes.
Got him.
Where they'll be
that was a good animation, guys. I gotta call it out when I see it. That is a great animation.
much more exposed and vulnerable. Because of this, many species may gather in groups while foraging,
Look at this.
increasing their collective vigilance, and as they become
It's
increasingly
incredible.
reliant on the other group members for protection, they may more efficiently coordinate their activities by evolving a division of labor. Sentinel behavior occurs when an individual forgoes foraging for food to assume lookout duty, alerting the rest of the group if they spot danger, seen in a wide variety of social animals like Barbary ground squirrels, prairie dogs, and pied babblers. Sentinel behavior is a prototypical example of altruism, since the sentinel not only misses out on feeding opportunities, but their alarm calls may also attract the predator's attention, making the sentinel a more likely target. This once again raises the issue of how this behavior can persist. We'd expect the individuals that exhibit sentinel behavior to eventually die out and their altruistic genes along with them. But acting as a sentinel may ultimately be worth the trouble if the other group members can return the favor. Reciprocal altruism occurs when an organism behaves altruistically towards another individual with the expectation that that same individual will later carry out the same behavior for it in return.
Now, this is where humans are probably on the list. I feel like this is more like human cooperation right here. It's altruistic, but it's more like reciprocal, where I do expect you something back, get tit for tat, all that stuff.
For example, vampire bats regurgitate a portion of the blood they've drank to members of the roost that have been less successful in their feeding, and are in turn fed by other bats when they've been unable to find food. Reciprocal altruism can serve as a way for sentinel behavior to evolve. All the individuals in the group will take turns as sentinel, mindful of the payback they receive when others take their turn. But this raises another problem. What's to stop one individual from simply never taking a turn as sentinel, receiving the benefit of the other group members' altruism
Group punishment, that probably comes into play sometime.
without ever going to the trouble of reciprocating it? This risk of exploitation poses a danger to the entire group, so they'll have to ensure that every member of the group pulls their weight, punishing or even exiling individuals that try to cheat the system. This requires the cognitive capacity to recognize each of the group members and to keep track of who's been serving their time as sentinel, which will be easier to do with fewer individuals in the group. So unlike the more or less random congregations of the Camptopods and Alabrachids, these Leptopterans will live in small, tightly knit groups with a low degree of fission-fusion dynamics and strong social bonds between group members. However, this whole system relies on the sentinel having some way of alerting the other group members to danger, so these Leptopterans will need some way of producing alarm calls. Animals on Earth show a huge variety of different mechanisms for creating sound. Some, like stoneflies, simply tap their legs or abdomen against the ground, while cicadas produce their characteristic sound using corrugated drum-like structures in their abdomen called tymbals, and others, like the death's head hawk moth and the Madagascan hissing cockroach, create sounds by rapidly expelling air from their mouthparts or spiracles. But one of the most common forms of sound production is stridulation, where a sound is produced by rubbing or scraping two body parts against each other. For these Leptopterans, one of the very few parts of their body they can feasibly use to produce sounds is their teeth. Initially, they may signal to each other by flexing their oral tentacles to scrape or rattle their teeth together, and as they become increasingly dependent on these sounds to communicate danger, some of these teeth may lose their role in feeding and evolve into specialized stridulating structures with which they can produce a range of chirping sounds.
Yo, shout outs to the people who made the sound effects for this. They really doing the extra work over here. What is it? Tenderloin 123 and Hero Bane? Bro, shout outs to these guys.
However, these calls will be of little use if they have no way of being detected. Hearing is extremely widespread, though not universal, in animals on Earth.
I ain't never seen what a frog's ear looks like. A lizard's ear. Or these are 3 ears I've never seen before in my life. I promise you guys, no BS. I have never seen the ears of any of these 3 creatures before. Let me make sure everybody can see what I'm talking about here. Guys, look at these ears. Have y'all ever seen a fish ear like this before? Like, is this the ear? I think this is the ear. I don't even know for real. Look at this. I've never been this close to one of these lizards before. I've never even looked at what an ostrich ear looks like before. I've never even Googled that. This is like new information for me. I've never even thought about this stuff right here. All right, let's get back to it.
While all tetrapods have inherited a similar hearing structure from early fish, hearing organs have independently evolved over 24 times among arthropods, with their placement being extremely variable between clades. But almost all of these hearing organs have converged on a similar structure, consisting of a membrane called a tympanum, or eardrum, which vibrates in response to nearby sounds, stretched over a hollow chamber through which the auditory nerves run. Most Lophostomes have a fairly unspecialized hearing mechanism, simply detecting vibrations that reach the sensory nerves within their oral tentacles and eye stalks. But in species that communicate using sound, as these Leptopterans do, the hearing organs tend to be especially sensitive to the frequencies of the sounds they produce, which may require more acute hearing, so the areas of the nervous system that detect and process vibrations may enlarge into dedicated auditory lobes. with the nerves running into hollow chambers on either side of the eye stalks. With these physical adaptations maximizing the efficiency of their group behaviors, these small Leptopterans, which we'll call Pipiodonts, will be specialized for sociality, living in cohesive groups of 5 to 10 individuals, with a sentinel perched at all times on a nearby tree or other elevated position to make it easier to scan their surroundings. But beyond group defense, sociality can also provide a benefit to predators. Pack hunting is a behavior in which multiple individuals work together to bring down prey, seen in a disparate variety of clades like wolves, lions, hyenas, and even invertebrates like velvet worms. But despite it having evolved so many times, pack hunting has only been observed in less than 10% of carnivorous species,
Really?
suggesting that in most cases, pack hunting isn't an evolutionarily stable strategy.
Ha! Except for us humans, that is. Humans are like up by a million in nature's. We're up by so much in nature on Earth. At least we're like living large. Literally, we have houses. Nobody's making houses like as good as ours. I'll say that. Some people may have some cool houses out there. You got ants; they got some cool houses. Not like our bees. Bees have cool houses. I'll give bees that. They have cool houses. Wasp, all those things. They all have cool houses. Not everybody though. Snakes aren't building cool houses, bro. They're living in the ground. They're living in caves, stuff that's pre-made. They're not redecorating it like that. It's not as cool. Spiders probably have cool houses. They're making themselves. Shout outs to spiders. They have cool houses. Flies, no cool houses. They're not doing nothing. They're just being annoying.
The primary benefit of pack hunting is that it allows a group to take down prey too large or well defended to tackle individually. But the drawback is that every kill will have to be divided among everyone in the pack, meaning a smaller share of food for each of them. If the average prey is small and common enough to be taken down by a solitary predator, or doesn't provide enough food for more than one individual, then pack hunting won't be an effective adaptation. This may be why on Earth, pack hunting is extremely rare in rainforests and other regions with abundant prey, and is found almost exclusively in tropical steppe, as well as occasionally in temperate plains and tundra, all habitats where widely dispersed populations of large prey force predators to work together. The tropical plains of the western continent are home to the titanopods, many of which are too large for even apex predators like the enzodonts to feasibly take down on their own, which may prompt some species to form packs, the size and structure of which will depend on several ecological factors. A larger pack will let them take down bigger prey, but not only will it mean a smaller portion of the kill for each pack member, but also, just like in reciprocal altruism, a larger pack will be more susceptible to cheaters, as only so many pack members will be needed for a successful hunt, and any superfluous members that don't participate in hunts will still benefit from the other pack members' efforts. The optimal group size will therefore be equal to the minimum number of individuals required to take down their typical prey, which for these enzodonts may be somewhere between 4 to 10 pack members. In some pack hunting species, group size and cohesion fluctuates with the availability of prey. Fossa are mostly solitary, but they have been observed occasionally grouping up to hunt together, which may be a lingering remnant of older pack hunting behaviors that evolved to help them hunt the now extinct Madagascan megafauna. But species that specialize for pack hunting may evolve more permanent associations and more sophisticated behaviors, such as a division of labor among the pack members, each individual filling a different essential role during the hunt. When lionesses stalk their prey, some pack members take the role of wings, encircling the prey and driving it towards the centers who wait in ambush, while chimpanzees divide hunting duties into up to 4 highly specialized roles. The need for different roles to be filled into
what are those roles? BRB? Okay, I gotcha. Let's see. Ambusher, blocker, chaser, and driver. Interesting. Somebody goes, all right, I'm going to wait for the ambush. And then, hey, all right, I'm going to block their path. I'm a good blocker. Then it's like, all right, I'm going to do the chase to get them in the right spot. And then the driver, what would they be doing? They're probably the one actively, you know, wait, no, okay, drivers probably going after them, chasers following that person, blockers blocking them from being stopped, and then ambusher comes at the end and like finishes them off. That's what I assume. If that's true, that's a good strategy, and also shout outs to me.
4 highly specialized roles. The need for different roles to be filled during the hunt can even lead to cooperative hunting between different species, such as how groupers are known to cooperate with moray eels, which are able to slither among stands of coral to flush prey into the open where the groupers can more easily catch it, increasing hunting efficiency for both species. Like many pack hunting animals, these enzodonts may establish hunting roles based on age, size, and experience, with the younger pack members surrounding the prey and blocking its escape, while the older and larger members move in for the kill. These tactics will give these enzodonts, which we'll call prionodonts, a competitive advantage over their solitary relatives and let them tackle large prey that most other predators would struggle with.
Oh my gosh, Lace! This is incredible. This is like this looks like a real image. I'm actually a little afraid right now. He looks like he's smiling too, like he's so happy but he's not. He's like trying to scare them off. But this is like I see a smiley face here. Hilarious. But yeah, these guys are about to have a good time right now.
As well as increased protection and hunting success, another big advantage provided by sociality is easier access to reproduction. After all, even if an animal remains solitary for its entire life, as long as it reproduces sexually, it will still need to cooperate with another individual to reproduce, which can drive animals to congregate to make finding mates easier. One common example of this is lekking, a mating behavior in which the males of a species gather in a single location during the breeding season to compete in courtship displays and attract visiting females. These gatherings, or leks, make the process of mate selection much more efficient, since the females won't need to waste any time or energy searching for a mate when all the males are gathered in one spot, and it will be easier to judge the males against each other and evaluate who will be the best mate. Because all the males carry out their displays in such close proximity to each other, leks inherently involve a high degree of male competition, which, relating to what we covered in Part 10, often drives the evolution of male display structures and ornamentation that they can use to compete with each other, and as such, lekking is strongly correlated with sexual dimorphism. This being the case, lekking behaviors may evolve in sexually dimorphic clades like the Ceratobrachids and Corythobrachids, who will gather in huge groups during the mating season all across the landscape of the western continent. In most lekking species, leks occur within a single relatively small area with the males within sight of each other. But if some species live in areas of dense vegetation or other environments with a limited line of sight, then the males can't rely on visual signaling alone to attract females, and so may evolve to advertise their position using sound. While stridulation is a very widespread method of sound production, for animals with active respiration like tetrapods and osteopods, the movement of air through the respiratory tract provides an easy way of generating calls, which, when produced in this...
Guys, real actual question here. This may sound ridiculous, but do y'all think this may possibly be how communication started with humans? Like, just regular talking. Do you think it started us, with us being able to breathe and stuff like that, and then we were just like grunting until aggressively grunting at a point, and then being like, all right, I need a new call, and then eventually being like, you know what? Let me try this talking thing. Like, like the grunts eventually got more, and then obviously we needed to, do call outs and stuff in battles. So, you had to get more specific. And then eventually it's like learning, you want to be able to communicate and learn to your offspring, to teach them stuff. So there's like several things. I feel like mating was still part of how talking got started, like communication got started with humans. I'm sure some anthropologist or something out there is going to tell me it actually started like this, and I will probably believe you. If you know how it started, comment down below. I'm going to go ahead and believe you.
This way are called vocalizations.
Or not, maybe. I don't know.
Many vertebrates...
Convince me.
evolved special organs to augment and amplify their vocalizations, like the syrinx in birds and the vocal cords in mammals. Osteopods have two separate breathing canals, one on either side of the body. Most species don't have any well-developed means of creating vocalizations, though some may be capable of forcefully exhaling to produce grunts, chirps, or whistles. But as these corythobrachids increasingly rely on these vocalizations to attract mates, their airways and spiracles may evolve special resonating chambers to let them produce bellowing or trumpeting calls. Again, however, these vocalizations rely on these corythobrachids being able to hear one another. The ancestral osteopod's hearing mechanism developed from the mechanoreceptors that let them detect vibrations underwater, which, in the transition to life on land, evolved to become sensitive to specific frequencies, functioning in a similar way to the sensory hairs of some insects and the hair cells inside the inner ears of vertebrates. The majority of these setae will be concentrated on the pedipalps so they can be angled towards a source of noise, in much the same way that many mammals can adjust the position of their ears. While some early clades may maintain this simple design, many later forms will evolve more acute hearing by developing tympanic hearing chambers within their pedipalps, which will be inherited by most of the subsequent osteopod clades. Since these corythobrachids rely on long-distance auditory signals to coordinate their social activities, their hearing chambers may enlarge and become more sensitive to lower frequencies to let them discern each other's calls.
Okay.
These animals, which we'll call chamarobrachids, will remain in relatively small fission fusion societies outside the breeding season, but will form leks of up to 100 males spread out over many square kilometers of variable or forested terrain, relying on their vocalizations to stay in contact with each other. Because each male aims to attract as many females as possible, lekking is usually considered a form of polygyny, a mating system in which, within a given breeding season, a single male will mate with multiple females while a female typically only mates with one male. Polygyny is one of the most common types of mating systems, seen in as many as 90% of all mammals, which isn't too surprising considering that, as described by Bateman's principle, males receive a greater reproductive benefit from multiple mates than females do.
Not gonna lie, this right here probably goes crazy in like gender studies classes and stuff. Just this whole concept right here probably goes absolutely wild in those classrooms, you know?
But while in lekking species, a male will typically form no long-term bond with any of the females he mates with, if the females represent a limited resource, then the male may need to protect his access to mates by forming permanent associations with them. A harem is a form of polygynous social group usually consisting of a single male and multiple females, all of whom stay together throughout the year and function as a cohesive group, ensuring that the male always has access to mates. Haremic mating systems may emerge among some species of camptopods, many of which have already evolved basic herding behaviors, so forming harems may help these species achieve a greater degree of reproductive success. But evolving to live in harems may also prompt some physiological adaptations.
Really?
Because the harem represents the male's access to reproduction, the dominant male will need to defend it from other males who try to mate with his females.
True.
Any males that are unable to acquire or maintain their own harem may engage in kleptogamy or sneak mating, infiltrating another harem while the dominant male is distracted and mating with some of the females.
Brother, this is actually insane. You gonna sneak your boy like that? Get one of his other ones while he trying to, he trying to maintain the harem, and you over here sneaking in, bro? That's actually wild, bro.
Or they may even challenge the dominant male directly for control of the harem. This means that competition between males is often very high in haremic species, which once again drives the evolution of sexual dimorphism. In these camptopods, the males may become larger and more heavily built than the females, and evolve prominent horns and facial armor with which to spar with each other. Although these horns can serve as formidable weapons, most of the time the males will seek to avoid injury, and so will instead simply try to intimidate their rivals into backing down. In animals on Earth, threat displays like these commonly involve vocalizations, so the males of these captopods may evolve special membranes in their spiracles to help them produce deep, booming growls to scare off opponents.
Well, that would scare me off. I'm out of there, buddy. I would have been out of there at your last sound effect, but this one's even crazier. Yeah, I'm out of there, bro. You ain't got to tell me
But
twice.
unlike the harems of tetrapods on Earth, the males of these captopods will face an additional source of competition as a consequence of sequential hermaphroditism. In sequentially hermaphroditic species, the change from one sex to the other normally only occurs if it's likely to increase the individual's reproductive success, which, in the case of harems, if a female were to become male, then since the harem is formed almost entirely of females, her number of potential mates would hugely increase. Therefore, whereas monogamy and random mating systems are correlated with protandry, protogeny is most often associated with polygynous and especially haremic mating systems. So whereas most of the distantly related allobrachids on the western continent will be protandrous, these captopods will be primarily protogynous. But while becoming male may ostensibly give a female more opportunities for mating, it's unlikely that this will be tolerated by the harem's dominant male, as he'll want to keep all the females of the harem to himself, so he'll need to assert his dominance to maintain his position at the head of the group and discourage.
Okay, now, who drew this? Greeniverse? How were you able to display this much anger within this one and dominance, and also so much sadness and pity within this one? It's like just by doing this extra swoop right here or something, it just feels more menacing. And like, is this kind of like an eyebrow here? And then this one, head down. Look at the droopiness there. This guy just looks strong. Like, bro, art is incredible because literally I see it. I see the dominance right now. Like, don't even think about it. What are you doing over there? What is that growing on your head? You better not let that thing grow. Oh, get out of here. You think you're about to get some of these women. This is my harem. This is what he's over here explaining to him. And yeah, it's good stuff right here. I like it.
Any of his females from challenging him.
Get out of
there. If a
there.
female begins to perceive the dominant male as an unfit mate or an inadequate leader, this may trigger her transition from female to male, after which she'll fight with the dominant male and attempt to take his place. With this social structure, these captopods, which we'll name Spheneceratones, will have constant access to reproduction while benefiting from each other's mutual protection. But although polygyny seems to maximize reproductive success for both sexes, there are forms of social organization that are based around other mating systems. In Part 10, we discussed how monogamy evolved in the amphidonts in response to living in desolate environments at very low population densities, conditions under which males gained a greater degree of reproductive success from a single mate than from many. When they first evolve, they'll be solitary and territorial, but when the glacial cycles end, the warming climate will increase the levels of rainfall across much of the continental interior, turning some of the regions of cold desert and tundra where the amphidonts live into tracts of steppe and scrubland. Although these habitats will have a greater abundance of food, they'll also support a greater diversity of prey and predators, presenting the amphidonts with new sources of competition. While their adaptability and relatively small size will be a great asset, some amphidonts may further avoid competition with the larger daylight predators by evolving nocturnal or crepuscular lifestyles. To help them hunt in low light and to judge distances more accurately, their lateral pair of eyes may enlarge and evolve special bones that allow them to be swiveled in different directions to track prey, which may also function as sclerotic rings to help the eyes maintain their shape. To complement their keen vision, they may also evolve more acute hearing, but unlike the Camarabrachids, these forms will have the openings of their hearing organs positioned at the apex of the pedipalps, so they can be more easily turned towards a source of noise, and an ear canal running down to the tympanic membrane within. These openings may be surrounded by tufts of hair that keep them clear of debris, as well as to help funnel vibrations into the ear canal in a similar way to the pinnae in mammals. This improved hearing will make it more feasible to communicate through vocalizations, so they may evolve expanded respiratory tracts with special valves to let them produce a variety of rasping, chattering growls.
Oh, I'm telling you, I would be afraid of this. I would pee my pants at that moment.
But on top of these physical adaptations, evolving sociality will also give them a huge advantage, as even though their ancestors were fiercely territorial, the increase in local resources as the climate changes will reduce interspecific competition, and pack hunting may be the only feasible way to take down many of the large herbivores they now share their range with, so they may evolve to live in clans consisting of anywhere from 3 to 15 monogamous pairs. Like in all social groups, conflicts will occasionally arise between clan members over access to food and mates.
True.
To streamline these interactions, many social animals form dominance hierarchies in which every group member has a social rank that represents.
I would be the one that's like, I call top rank. I want to be top of the pyramid. You guys, you guys got to be the bottoms to my top, guys. It is what it is.
Their access to food and reproduction relative to the other group members. In most species, dominance is established by size, age, and aggression, but it can also vary based on sex. In African wild dogs, males and females occupy 2 separate hierarchies.
Whoa, what are these guys doing over here? Calm down, buddy. There's probably kids watching or something. What is this guy over here trying to get down with, bro? What? Calm down, buddy. Like, what's happening? We're probably still at the park right now. We're just chilling. You doing too much. Get a little too freaky over
Dogs,
there.
males and females occupy 2 separate hierarchies, and in hyenas, even the lowest ranking females are still dominant over the males. Hyenas also determine dominance through nepotism, with offspring inheriting the rank of their parents.
Dang.
In the ancestral amphidonts, the need to defend.
Dang. So, like, if somebody in the, like, you're in a hyena community. If you're a hyena out there, let me know. Shout outs to you. But there's people in the hyena community who's just like, yeah, they didn't like my dad. He had a messed up job. Now I got to get the same job. Like, whoa. Brother, he ain't me. He don't got. I'm a whole person. Let me be me, and then I'll show you who I am and what I'm about. You over here being like, nah, his dad was kind of whack. I bet he's gonna be whack. No, bro, that's not how this works, man.
Fixed territories resulted in the females evolving larger body sizes and more aggressive temperaments than the males, which in these social species may translate into dominance hierarchies that naturally favor females, with the proviso that since these animals are protandrous, a male may end up becoming female if he stands to gain dominance in so doing. Sex may also play a role when it comes to dispersal. To avoid inbreeding, social animals will need to periodically evict individuals from the group to join or establish another. In the majority of social species, males are more likely to disperse than females, especially in polygynous systems like harems, where the young males are exiled from the group to live solitary lives until they form harems of their own, occasionally joining up with other males in small groups called bachelor herds. In contrast...
Dang. I ain't gonna lie, that sounds like you got issues with your parents, bro. You need therapy. Like, I know you forming these bachelor herds and all this stuff, trying to get harems of your own. That's just generational trauma. Just keep recycling. These animals, I ain't gonna lie, they need therapy. Talk to somebody, help you work through the issues you have with your parents, and then you can get back into being a normal monogamous species. By the way, that's a joke and this is sarcasm. I have been seeing some comments not understanding sarcasm recently, so I guess I have to clarify these things now.
Female dispersal is quite rare, but most often occurs among monogamous species, or those with low levels of mate competition and a need to defend their access to local resources. So since these amphidonts retain the monogamy of their ancestors, they may therefore favor female dispersal. But sociality offers additional reproductive advantages than just increased access to mates. One of the most common forms of altruism is parental care, acting in a way that increases the chance of the organism's current offspring surviving by incurring a cost to its own survival and its potential to bear future offspring. The factors that favor parental care are encapsulated by K-selection, The general trend being that the greater investment a reproductive effort represents, the greater the pressure will be to ensure that the investment pays off. So species with slow growth rates or that require large amounts of resources to reach maturity will benefit the most from parental care. But recall that reproduction is typically a greater investment for females than for males, so females usually experience a greater selective pressure to ensure the young survive. Because of this, the most common form of parental care is female-only parental care, seen in almost all mammal species, while male-only parental care is much rarer, especially in animals with internal fertilization. But if sexual selection is low, and if there are any ecological factors that increase the cost of reproduction for the male as well, such as if juveniles have very low survival rates, then the male may be incentivized to incur the cost of losing out on additional mating opportunities to help the female in caring for the young, resulting in biparental care. Biparental care often goes hand in hand with monogamy, since investing in a single mate means the male can expend the energy he would have spent searching for more mates into caring for the young instead. Biparental care is seen in the vast majority of bird species, possibly because their highly altricial young require a great amount of care from both parents to survive. Although monogamy initially evolved among the solitary amphidonts as a response to low population densities, it also provided the opportunity for the males to assist in parental care, so biparental care will be an ancestral trait for the amphidonts. But the species that evolve sociality will have the opportunity to employ an even more effective strategy. There are other ways for an organism to pass on its genes than simply producing offspring.
Okay.
In a species that reproduces sexually, an individual inherits half of its genes from each of its parents, and will therefore also share half its genes with its direct offspring. Statistically, it will also share, on average, half of its genes with each of its full siblings, a quarter with half-siblings, an eighth with first cousins, and so on. This means that when an individual reproduces, it's not only propagating its own genes, but also those of its relatives, and thereby acting to increase their fitness as well as its own.
True.
This concept is called inclusive fitness, and provides a way for altruism to still result in a net reproductive benefit. The conditions under which altruistic behaviors will be selected for are described by Hamilton's rule, which takes into account this proportion of shared genes, or relatedness, as well as the cost to the initiator of the altruistic act. And
so pretty much your good genes are going to be spread against, out there more in the crowd. That makes sense,
the benefit to the recipient. Hamilton's rule predicts that the more closely related two individuals are, the more likely they are to behave altruistically towards each other, since the greater the proportion of their shared genes they're helping to propagate and the greater inclusive fitness they gain. Because of this, most social species usually have a relatively high degree of relatedness between group members, meaning they all gain inclusive fitness from one another's reproduction. To maximize this benefit, some social species, especially monogamous ones, exhibit cooperative breeding, in which young receive care not only from their parents, but also from other members of the social group, usually called helpers in this context.
Hey, it takes a village, man. It takes a village.
If the clans of these amphidonts have a suitably high degree of relatedness, then they may seek to increase their inclusive fitness by sharing the duties of parental care among the entire clan. All the clan's young will be kept together in a communal nest site, and the adults will take turns guarding them while the others are off hunting, giving these amphidonts, which we'll call xenopsids, a very high rate of juvenile survival. But if the right ecological factors are in place, some clades may evolve to take cooperative breeding one step further. One of the osteopod clades that's most reliant on parental care are the trypanochirids, as their highly altricial young, or grubs, are completely unable to fend for themselves until they develop bones and functioning eyes. In the Semelparus species, the female can afford to expend all of her energy into caring for the young, since she inevitably dies once they're developed enough to leave her protection. But species that can't afford such extreme parental investment may rely on another form of cooperative breeding. Once again, the higher the relatedness between the individuals, the greater the inclusive fitness an organism will gain from helping a relative's offspring, and so the stronger the impetus there'll be for cooperative breeding. This being the case, one of the most common types of cooperative breeding is the rather poorly termed helpers at the nest, in which care is provided to an individual by its older siblings, who remain with their parents instead of...
Brother, that's just like that's just having a babysitter. At that point, that's just your older sibling being a babysitter. Relearning the pundit square from high school. Oh wow. Hey, shout outs to you, bro.
dispersing to begin their own broods.
I don't know if I ever learned that from the beginning. I'll be honest. I don't remember what it is specifically. Also, it's been a while since I've been in high school. I'll be honest with you. It's been quite a while since I was in high school myself.
If this happens in the Trypanochirids, while the males may remain semiparous, the females may evolve longer lifespans to let them produce many clutches of offspring over multiple breeding seasons. Semiparity operating asymmetrically between the sexes like this is fairly common in semiparous species on Earth, and will provide these Trypanochirids with the opportunity for each clutch the female produces to help care for the one that follows it. Remember though, that relatedness is only 50% between full siblings, so if a single female has multiple clutches of young with different males, then the average relatedness between all of her offspring decreases, along with the inclusive fitness they gain from helping each other. So helpers at the nest will be most strongly selected for when the relatedness between siblings is maximized. In other words, that they all have the same father, meaning that monogamy is an essential prerequisite for most forms of cooperative breeding.
Oh.
However, there are ways to ensure maximum relatedness without forming
That makes
an
a lot of
exclusive
sense,
pair
I
bond.
will say that.
In some animals, the female has the ability to store the male's gametes within her body for an extended period after he inseminates her, and to choose when to use them to fertilize her eggs. And if the female is inseminated by multiple males, she can even choose which male's gametes she uses. In this way, the female can produce multiple clutches of offspring over her lifetime from only a single mating, and can guarantee that all of her offspring have the same father to make the relatedness between them as high as possible, ensuring they gain the maximum possible benefit from cooperative breeding. The helpers can also forage for food, dig and maintain the burrow, and engage in sentinel behavior to watch for predators. To signal to each other, these animals may once again evolve a means of producing vocalizations. All Eurychirids have complex scent chambers within their spiracles, inherited from their scavenging ancestors, which in these creatures may develop specialized vibrating vocal folds to produce a variety of high-pitched chirps.
Let me hear it. It sounds like little bird. Like, what are the... I don't know bird ball like that, I'm be honest. I was going to say like not a pigeon. Parakeet? I don't know. I don't know bird knowledge.
To pick up these calls, they may evolve in large tympanic hearing chambers from the hollow space left behind as their pedipalps shrink into antennae, with small bones at the base of the pedipalps helping to conduct vibrations like the middle ear bones of mammals. Fossorial animals tend to lack pinnae and other external structures that might otherwise make it difficult to squeeze through tight burrows, so these hearing organs and the pedipalps they're attached to will remain relatively indistinct. And since the pedipalps have entirely lost their role in handling food, their mandibles may evolve into a multi-purpose beak-like structure, equally equipped to handle both meat and plant matter, for which we'll give them the name Rhamphodonts. In most cases, these Rhamphodonts' offspring will remain with the mother and maintain their role as helpers for at least one full breeding season, eventually dispersing to begin their own broods. But if helping their mother reproduce returns an especially high degree of inclusive fitness, then they may be selected to forego their own reproduction entirely. Reproductive suppression occurs when individuals are inhibited or prevented from reproducing, often due to a pressure from the dominant individual of the social group who monopolizes reproduction.
I've heard about it with these guys over here. I remember seeing that in a video about them. Like, it was kind of messed up. It's like the mom was stopping the daughter from getting pregnant or like kicked her out the group. It's crazy.
In clownfish, subordinate members of the group don't even develop functioning reproductive systems until the dominant female dies. And in meerkats, the dominant female attacks and evicts any other females in the group who try to mate, as it hampers or even eliminates any chance of the individual achieving any direct fitness. Reproductive suppression is only viable if the individual stands to gain greater inclusive fitness from helping its relatives reproduce than it would from producing its own offspring. as well as high levels of relatedness between group members and highly altricial offspring that are likely to die without many helpers caring for them. An important factor that contributes to this is a high cost of dispersal. Many animals that exhibit reproductive suppression live in environments where patches of resources are separated by stretches of barren or uninhabitable landscape, making it less practical for offspring to disperse from the nest to begin their own broods. So for the ramphidonts living in the arid scrublands and deserts near the center of the western continent, the newly matured adolescents may only rarely brave the perilous terrain and myriad predators to attempt to find mates, more often remaining within the safety of their mother's burrow to help her raise more offspring. Plus, staying within their home nest also comes with the possibility of inheriting the nest, along with privileged reproductive status, once the breeding individuals die, without having to go to the trouble of establishing their own nest elsewhere. Witch helper
I'm waiting for my parents to go out so I can have a new house. Wild. What? These fish are absolutely insane,
ends
bro.
up becoming the new breeding female will be determined by another
What? This animation is next level.
elsewhere. Which helper ends up becoming the new breeding female will be determined by another form of dominance hierarchy based on age and size, with Protandry once again providing a way for males to achieve dominance. And if the right ecological circumstances are at play, some ramphidont species may specialize to take this bizarre lifestyle to an even greater extreme. The ultimate culmination of reproductive suppression is eusociality, a form of social organization in which reproduction is monopolized by a small number of breeding individuals who are assisted by multiple overlapping adult generations of their offspring, who spend their entire lives tending to the breeders without ever producing any offspring of their own. In facultatively eusocial animals like naked mole rats, if the breeding female dies, the most dominant helper takes her place and inherits her reproductive privileges. But in obligately eusocial animals like ants, bees, and termites, the helpers remain sterile for their entire lives, and if the breeding female dies or runs out of stored sperm, then the entire colony ultimately dies as well. An individual's role and reproductive status within a eusocial colony is referred to as its caste.
I've never heard of the king. I've always heard the queen bee. I never knew about like drones and king bees. So these are just like, they also fly. That's the difference.
Basic caste distinction being between helpers, or workers, and breeders, the females of which are usually called queens, and the males either kings or drones. Once again, this whole system relies on the workers achieving greater inclusive fitness from helping their mother produce more offspring than attempting to reproduce on their own. Notably, eusociality has evolved in the hymenopterans, the ants, bees, and wasps, at least 8 times, which may at least partially be the result of their haplodiploidy, a unique sex determination system in which males inherit only one copy of each chromosome directly from the mother, while the females inherit 2, one from the mother and one from the father, which results in a bizarre pattern of asymmetrical relatedness in which the females are more closely related to their sisters than they are to their own offspring. However, both in the hymenopterans and in eusocial animals with more typical sex determination systems, the maximizing of relatedness between offspring is still largely accomplished via monogamy, although many eusocial species revert to other mating systems once eusociality has been established. In termites, the reproductive male and female, the king and queen of the colony, remain together and mate continuously to produce a constant supply of workers, while in ants the semilparous males die after inseminating the female, who is able to store the male's sperm for as long as 30 years to keep on producing new generations of...
Jesus, lady, let it go. Get some more action somewhere else in your life. Whoa.
Offspring. As a consequence of so rarely dispersing, almost all eusocial species live in huge communal nests that are usually concentrated around resource-rich areas of otherwise barren habitats. The burrowing ramphidonts may build such nests by digging out huge underground warrens and tunnel complexes, feeding on tree roots, tylophyte and cryptophyte bulbs, malacoforms, and any other food they can unearth. Since they live almost entirely in these lightless underground nests, the enormous eyes characteristic of the Lystrachierids are now almost vestigial, and so may shrink into barely functioning pits, as commonly happens in many fossorial animals. Their primary sense may come from the mechanoreceptors on their pedipalps, which may lengthen into whisker-like structures to help them feel their way through their underground passages. On top of adaptations like these, many eusocial species display physiological differences between castes to help them specialize for the role they play in the colony. This is usually accomplished through phenotypic plasticity, the capacity to undergo physiological or behavioral changes in response to environmental stimuli. For instance, in their larval stage, Hokkaido salamanders will adopt either a broad-headed attack morph if there's a local abundance of prey, or a large-tailed defense morph if there are lots of predators around. Unlike evolution, which occurs over many generations as a result of changes in gene frequencies, phenotypic plasticity occurs within individual organisms, and doesn't involve a change in genes, but only which of the organism's genes are activated or deactivated. Phenotypic plasticity provides a way for the different castes of eusocial colonies to physically differentiate. In most eusocial species, the breeders grow much larger than the workers and have much longer lifespans, with swollen abdomens filled with expanded reproductive tracts to continuously produce new young. In species that specialize for eusociality, phenotypic plasticity can also allow the breeders and the workers to differentiate into finer caste distinctions. Since eusocial animals depend so heavily on a single nest that provides them with all of their food and shelter, they'll need to protect it from predators and other animals that try to raid the nest of its resources.
True.
So many eusocial species have a distinction between normal workers, whose main jobs are to care for the young, collect food, and maintain the nest, and soldiers who defend the nest from attackers. Soldiers are often larger than workers and have bigger heads and stronger jaws to deliver powerful bites. In fact, in some termites, the soldiers' jaws are so large and specialized for biting that they can no longer be used for eating, and so they have to rely on the workers placing pre-chewed food directly into their mouths.
That might be one of the sadder things I've heard recently. But yeah, that's actually really cool. These guys are like the tanks of the ant universe, and it's like, hey, somebody got to play tank, bro, but I will make sure to give you some food. You got a big head. What up, big head? That's what they say to him.
In these Ramphidonts, the normal workers will have broad, spade-shaped claws well suited for digging, but those who become soldiers will develop sharp, blade-like claws and teeth with which they can aggressively repel any threat that comes near the nest. Both the workers and the soldiers will spend their entire lives tending to and protecting the enormous queen, whose reproduction represents their only means of achieving fitness. Only a select few young will develop into dispersers, the only members of the colony other than the queen capable of reproduction, who will leave the nest once they reach maturity to begin new colonies. To give them the best possible chance of surviving outside the safety of the nest,
This just looks incredible, people. Look at what we're looking at here. This is actually really great artwork.
May time their dispersal to coincide with the onset of the wet season when resources are most abundant, like the nuptial flights of some eusocial insects. The male dispersers will spend the rest of their lives seeking out and mating with as many female dispersers from other colonies as they can, the few who are lucky enough to avoid being eaten by predators dying naturally once the breeding season ends, and the fertilized females will find suitable spots to dig their burrows and begin producing new colonies. With a single nest containing over 100 animals, these Ramphidonts, which we'll call Oryctochirids, will exhibit some of the most complex social organization of any animal on the planet. But even eusociality, as astonishingly complex and specialized as it is, still isn't the pinnacle of cooperative behaviors.
What?
If division of labor is extensive enough, then the members of a social group may evolve to associate with each other not only socially, but also physically. In colonial or modular organisms, all the members of a colony grow together to collectively form one single superorganism. In clades like corals, pyrosomes, and siphonophores, what looks like a single individual is actually an entire colony, called a genet or zoon, composed of many interdependent organisms called ramets or zooids. Much like the castes in eusocial colonies, some colonial species have ramets that differentiate into one of a number of specialized morphs that fulfill a specific function. In the Portuguese man-o'-war, one ramet acts as a swim bladder to keep the colony afloat, while others catch prey and pass it into yet other ramets that act as stomachs, digesting the prey and transporting the nutrients to the rest of the genet. and one type of ramet is responsible for producing gametes, which are released into the water to eventually encounter gametes from other genets to grow into new colonies. Since these are the only ramets involved in sexual reproduction, the only way for the other ramets to achieve fitness is to work to keep the reproductive ramets alive and healthy so they can propagate the genes they all share, achieving inclusive fitness for the whole genet. This is reinforced by the fact that in almost all colonial organisms, ramets are produced asexually, meaning that all the members of the colony are genetically identical, and so they share the same relatedness with any other ramet's offspring as they would with their own. So the inclusive fitness they gain from another ramet reproducing is identical to the direct fitness they would gain from reproducing themselves. The ability to reproduce asexually is also an ancestral trait among the chemophytes, though they can also employ sexual reproduction to increase their genetic diversity and dispersal, which some clades like the chromatophytes have specialized for by evolving mutualism with pollinators. The earliest chromatophytes were epiphytes, growing in tightly clustered asexual colonies along tree branches, with the outer surface of their male gametangia covered in long, gamete-covered filaments, which are brightly colored to attract the attention of nectarivores. The more members of the colony contribute to this colorful display, the more visible and alluring they'll be to pollinators, making this floral ornamentation not only a form of cooperation, but also a marginal instance of altruism, since one plant's display will increase the likelihood of other members of the colony being pollinated as well, which they can afford to do since all the members of the colony share the same genes. And if this tendency for colonial cooperation continues, some of the subsequent chromatophyte clades may evolve into full-fledged colonial organisms, evolving division
Well, this actually looks very cool. I like this.
of labor among the members of the colony and differentiation into specialized ramets. Some will serve as structural support, growing into a sort of stem to reach upward for light. Some may spread along the ground like roots to gather water and nutrients. Some may fill the function of leaves, distributing the sugars they produce from photosynthesis to the rest of the colony. And some may specialize into reproductive structures, the only members of the colony to produce gametes and to be involved in pollination. These colonial plants, which we'll call zygophytes, will be more adaptable than most plants thanks to their flexible body plan, and so will become successful ground plants in tropical areas, rapidly spreading thanks to the mutualism they've maintained with their pollinators and seed dispersers. In a way, colonial organisms like these can be seen as analogous to the evolution of multicellularity. All multicellular organisms are associations of interdependent cells, each of which differentiate into one of many different kinds of cell to carry out a specific function, all working together to keep the superorganism, the individual, alive. But only the sex cells will actually be involved in reproduction, and will be the only ones to pass on their genes, and the genes they share with the other cells of the superorganism, to a new individual. So, in a way, all multicellular organisms, even solitary ones, are examples of sociality in action. The possibilities for cooperative
Yes, that means you, dear viewer.
behaviors are almost limitless in their variation and complexity, but the clades we've looked at here will exemplify some of the more common ways for sociality to manifest, evolving within the time between the first glacial periods up to about 30 million years following the end of the Ice Age. But shortly after this point, the adaptations of all of the mainland clades will be put to the test in the face of a new challenge. In the next episode, we'll explore the ecological upheaval that occurs when the two continents merge back into one.
Oh, crap. Already?
Thanks again to all the artists on Discord who contributed artwork.
Once again, shout outs to all the artists. I love the artistry. Shout outs to the video, but also the art.
For this episode,
Artwork's
and
incredible.
who saved me an enormous amount of time
Come on,
and
round of
effort when
applause
making
for
these
the
videos,
artists
while
here,
simultaneously making them look
They did a
hell of
great
lot
job,
better in the
ladies and
process.
gentlemen.
Links to the main server and the Alien Biospheres fan server in the description. And once again, a massive thanks to all the patrons.
Also, a special shout out to everybody who did the animations. The animations were so on point. It was incredible.
Whose continued support
move
makes
myself
videos
to the
like
other
this
screen
possible.
so you see their names.
Thanks for
and
watching,
stuff.
and I'll see you in the next video.
There we go. Put myself right up here so we can admire the artwork together. Incredible. Hey, hold on now. Hold on now. What was Buddy's name here? What was Buddy's name there? That name looks familiar. Hey, who is this guy? That is actually not me, but shout outs to this guy. Dragan. Come on, man. Oh yeah, Extinction. XY underscore XYZ. Bro, the animation was on point. If you ever watch this video, if you ever just being like, oh man, I hope somebody did a reaction and they look at the part that I did, bro. I appreciated it. Whoa, oh yeah. Was that also the other animation? Because that was pretty cool too. Yeah, these images were really cool, bro. I like these gaps. Shout outs to gaps. Honestly, if you're looking for art, I would say hit up any of these people on their art pages. You're gonna get some great art. This one, I really did like this one so much. Bro was like, oh, angry. Like, how would you were able to get express that? Bro was so like dominated. It's crazy. All of these were great. All of these were great. Anime quality right here. It's hilarious. I love the hand drawn ones too. Ooh, the landscapes are incredible. Good stuff, good stuff. I'm letting all these through. I honestly did not know it was going to be this long. I thought it would be like a quicker thing, but shout outs to Oblivion. He's still getting all these people to, help out with all this. It literally takes a community. Whoa, there we go. Turns into crocodile. Interesting. Okay. Guys. Whoa, not yet. Not yet. Got to talk about that last video. Because I enjoyed that video. I think that one was really good. One of the, it had some parts in it where I was a little bit like, interesting. Some parts that I knew more about than other parts, but for the most part, I was more in the blind about all of it. So I really enjoyed learning that stuff there. A lot of things about different types of communication, or not communication, but different types of cooperation. But also, cool communication. And it did make me think. It made me really think and consider, how did humans start actually cooperating together and why? And I think part of it, I think it's a multifaceted issue, but I think a major part of it was just, hey, we need to be able to mate. That's what it made me think of. It was just the fact that we needed to mate. Okay, now we're gonna watch another video here, by Just an Observation. This one is how Charlie manipulated the waitress in It's Always Sunny. Now, I am a huge It's Always Sunny fan. Now, I don't know if Charlie ever really manipulated the waitress. Outside of a couple of times, he did like rearrange all her stuff. He does stalk her, but then he doesn't do it like in a way where she doesn't know about it. He just does it in where she knows it. She doesn't know the extent of it. So like she doesn't know the extent of what he does for her. So we're gonna get into this one. This is gonna be a fun one. Make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe to Just an Observation. Make sure to give him a like and a follow, subscribe, all the fun stuff. Comment down below. Tell him that I sent you there. And yeah, we're gonna get into it. Guys, how Charlie manipulated the waitress in It's Always Sunny.
Dude, you're totally obsessed with that chick.
No, I'm not obsessed. I like her, okay? I have a little bit of a crush, yes.
Yeah.
If you're a waitress in South Philadelphia, you might encounter a customer like Charlie Kelly. Now, on the face of it, you might just think he's quirky, hard-working, with an unusual appetite for cheese, unaware that you're dealing with someone so blinded by his own good intentions that he'll never let you go.
Yeah.
You see, Charlie was raised in a single-parent household. He never knew his father, so developed an instinctive need to be there for his mother. But his mother still tried to find a father figure for her son by cycling through a series of romantic partners.
I'm gonna call some BS right here. Not like the creator. Shout out to the guy who made this, but Charlie's mom was notoriously known within these streets, if you know what I mean. Like, it ain't like she was doing that just for Charlie's benefit. She wasn't trying to find father figures for Charlie. She was trying to find some DICK, DICK for herself. And that's just who Charlie's mom was on the show. Yeah, she liked money and banging. And turns out she realized she could get paid for banging. Oldest industry in the world for a reason. Charlie's mom was definitely part of that.
However, none of them stayed, leaving this young boy with no clear example of how to maintain a steady relationship. Instead, he would simply find a woman to funnel all of his hopes and dreams into, even if she's unwilling to give him the time of day. But given he spent his youth waiting for a father figure to finally give him the love he needs, he's primed to wait as long as it takes for his future wife to finally shower him with affection.
N-O. How many times do I have to say it to you?
And although the waitress may just be a forgettable background character to the rest of the world, Charlie has built her up on such a pedestal that she can almost do no wrong. And given he watched his mother cycle through a series of inappropriate male suitors, he's already predisposed to forgive the waitress for testing out every other man in the vicinity before she finally sees that he was her knight in shining armor all along. But let's not get it twisted. Charlie is not just some hopeless romantic patiently waiting in the wings. He's an obsessive stalker who won't leave his victim alone. And given he's surrounded by a group of manipulative narcissists, it's not long before this lovesick lunatic starts trying to twist the odds in his favor through a series of deceptive strategies.
Okay.
So let's take a deeper look at how Charlie Kelly tries to manipulate the waitress into falling in love with him over 12 seasons of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Just 12 seasons? What's happening? Why aren't we going? We're just going over the first 12 seasons? Okay.
Charlie has had a crush on the waitress since he was a teenager, falsely remembering that she was the coolest and prettiest girl in high school. So he still looks at her through that childish, idealistic lens, envisioning that they could grow old together and have a large family of mini waitress and janitor children. This is what he always wanted out of life, so it's hard for him to imagine she wants anything different. And yes, while it is hard for men to know exactly what women want, as everyone is different, spending most of your time consuming glue, paint, and cat food while sharing a bed with a man who might be your father is probably not on most women's lists. So once
you don't know these chicks these days, bro.
Charlie discovers something that the waitress does want, he tries to deceive her into thinking he meets that criteria. For instance, when he finds out she's part of the Big Sister program, he pretends to be part of the Big Brother program so they have a...
I thought we were talking about plans that worked. This plan did not work whatsoever. It almost worked, but it didn't work because, they never even went on the thing. And I'm assuming that right after, at this moment, is when she realized he was lying.
Reason to hang out. Or when he's forced to attend an AA meeting, despite not considering himself an alcoholic.
Yeah, again, this almost worked, and this wasn't even a manipulation tactic. He actually got put in jail, it was like this or jail, or a huge fine. He had to go to AA. He admitted that he was drunk when they burnt down the next door place, and then Frank bought it. This is like season 2 stuff. This is like episode 2 of season 2. It's like after they threw the poop into the window of the place next door to them, and then the whole place burnt down. They had to do some stuff or go to, they had to do community service, but then Charlie also had to go to AA because he admitted that he was drunk while he did the crime. So like, again, this wasn't like a manipulation tactic here. This was just coincidence. And then it went into being more manipulative, but then it failed completely immediately.
Upon discovering the waitress also has a drinking problem, he takes full advantage of the help she's willing to offer by being his sponsor, as this gives him access to her in a way he could never normally achieve, being invited into her home and easily acquiring her phone number. Little did she realize that by giving him just this tiny bit of insight into her life, that he would become addicted to this knowledge.
Yeah, no. I got a call. I think he was already doing that here. I think he was already doing that at that point. He was already on the stalkerish stuff. He had her photo inside of his wallet since that was established on episode 1. He already had the photo in the wallet, so he already been a little bit on it too much. Even in the first episode, they're talking about how, like, bro, you're obsessed with this chick. You're obsessed with this chick. Meaning, if they're able to see it from just them, and they're, like, selfish people, if they're able to see it, then, you know, everyone else, he's definitely been doing more stuff that they don't know about and haven't been seeing, like the normal stalking. Like, you don't just... this is the first time I've been caught stalking reaction right there.
And constantly seek more, even starting to root through her trash and track her whereabouts, recording all of this information about her daily routine in a notebook, so he can manufacture more excuses to run into her.
Yeah. Okay, he does do that stuff.
Now already this might sound bad, as the feelings clearly only go one way, but love is complicated, as the invisible line between persistence and harassment can be hard to define. For instance, we've probably all heard stories from a happy couple, whether it's a grandparent or a colleague, in which the man was told no several times until his now wife decided to give him a chance. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of Charlie's strategies to spend more time with the waitress are no different from Jim and Pam in The Office, where on their wedding day, Jim finds...
When are we gonna finally have the whole, like, crossover that we've been needing the whole time? The Office guys join, you know, they need to be on the episode of It's Always Sunny. We had It's Always Sunny on Abbott Elementary. Now it's time to bring back people from The Office, a show that has been canceled for a long time, and then put them on a guest episode of It's Always Sunny as their characters. At least have Pam and, you know, I can't remember his name. Have these two right here. At least have them go there. We do also need Dwight, though. Like, I would like to see Dwight hanging out with, like, Charlie or something. I wouldn't be surprised if, like, Dwight in his farm is, like, one of the connections that, like, Frank just so happens to have. It would be hilarious.
Billy admits that he pretended to not know how to drive stick just to spend more time with Pam for a year, or how he pretended to need her assistance to make photocopies at work. All of this is considered cute now that they're together, but before then it was just weird, unrequited behavior.
But if one person isn't into the other, the same gesture comes off serial killer crazy.
A good example of this is How I Met Your Mother's creepy or romantic theory, where it pitches that the same romantic gesture can be interpreted as terrifyingly creepy depending whether or not the person is into you. Like, I snuck into your room to play you a song on my guitar the moment you walked in may sound romantic if it's received well, but it is a high-risk move that could easily backfire and paint you as a potential predator. We see an example of this in It's Always Sunny, when Charlie decides to write his musical The Night Man Cometh and convinces the waitress to attend by claiming that if she comes, he'll leave her alone for the rest of her life. But it turns out that the whole musical was just an excuse for him to propose to her in front of everyone at the end.
True.
No, I will not. I will never marry you.
And while that invisible line can seem hard to define through the benefit of hindsight, in real time it's really very simple. No means no. And when the waitress rejects his proposal...
Bro, he's definitely crossed the line multiple times by the time they even hit this point. Also, I gotta say, the waitress was looking incredible in this episode. I gotta rewatch that episode. The waitress was on point. Again, shout outs to the actress who plays her. She normally is looking really, really good. I will say that. The women on this show are incredibly beautiful. The woman who plays Dee, incredibly beautiful woman. The waitress, like, actually really incredibly beautiful. Even the guys, shout outs to them. Would bang.
And asserts that now he has to stop stalking her like they agreed, he disregards his promise because they never put it in writing and insists he'll still see her tomorrow. So although Charlie Kelly may have deluded himself into thinking he has nothing but good intentions, in this moment he clarifies that there really is no other way to interpret his obsession than completely sinister. Charlie may come across as an idiot, but he actually displays a relatively strong understanding of human psychology and how to socially catalyze.
This is something that I probably will agree on. Charlie is not as dumb as he pulls off, like he makes it seem. And I do still think he's dumb, but part of me thinks Charlie is also a secret genius, like a savant of types, like he might just have that in him, where he instinctively just knows information or some smart stuff. The case in point is the Flowers for Charlie episode, where he takes the placebo. The placebo doesn't work, but then all of a sudden he listened to 2 books. He actually maintained some information, and it's a placebo. So it's like, oh yeah, he just thought he was smarter, so he, was smarter. It's the whole placebo effect. But then it's like, okay, he knew what he was able to regurgitate information in a way that makes it feel like he actually understood it. It wasn't like, he's just trying to study. No, he actively was. That means he probably just knew what that placebo effect was. That's like retained information that he just had in his head. He just never thought about regurgitating it until now. He just didn't know how to. He has information stored within him. He doesn't know how to naturally unleash the information and use it in a better way. He's like a sponge that doesn't know how to get the stuff back out. All he knows how to do is absorb
the outcomes he wants. For instance, when he sees that the waitress is wearing a Lance Armstrong Live Strong bracelet, he intelligently decides.
Also, Charlie did get dumber throughout the seasons. Like, the longer the show went on, the less intelligent it feels like Charlie was getting. And then it kind of hit a point where it felt like he was getting more intelligent. And I think that's where we're kind of going up now, where Charlie was at an all-time low of intelligence, probably around season 8 or 9. Maybe season 10, but then around, even by the time of season 12, it was like, okay, well, whatever the Charlie work episode, where they show how he's running the bar, maintains the bar for the health inspectors. I think that's at a point, a pivotal point, I'll say, where it was like, okay, Charlie is smarter than we think. Some of this might be a ruse.
To privately tell Dennis that he probably has cancer, knowing that his friends were likely to feel so bad for him that they would coax the waitress into dating him. This was smarter than his usual strategies of making up lies himself, as the waitress is more likely to see through that. But when it's someone else sincerely telling her the information, then the lie builds up legitimacy. Now, does Charlie care that his friends basically had to pay the waitress to date him? Not at all, as Charlie doesn't really have dignity. He spends his days scrubbing toilets and cleaning vomit. So if something good is finally happening to him, who is he to say no? But unfortunately, the waitress feels the same way about Dennis that Charlie feels about her. No matter how many times he rejects or humiliates her, she's still open to being hurt again. So once Dennis tries to weaponize this reality by threatening to sleep with her unless Charlie agrees to do all of his work for him, Charlie hatches a Machiavellian plan that will simultaneously sabotage Dennis's reputation and trick the love of his life into sleeping with him. His strategy centers around revenge. If he can somehow weaponize Dennis's manipulative need to win, then he can orchestrate the outcome he wants. So once he reveals that Mac has slept with Dennis's mom, he then easily plants the idea in his head that the only way to get back at him is by sleeping with Mac's mom. This merely sets a foundation, but on its own achieves nothing. So Charlie also rehires Dee on the sole condition she drives the waitress around to spy on everything Dennis does. This way she can witness him creepily trying to seduce these elderly women. And after Dee pretends that Charlie made her sleep with him to get her job back, Dennis once again tries to inflict his revenge by sleeping with Charlie's mom, still operating under the foundation Charlie laid, and most importantly, still under the surveillance of the waitress. This is a particularly cruel method of attraction.
This was a good one. This is probably one of Charlie's better plans, especially in the early seasons. But it still doesn't feel like something he thought about a lot, because it does backfire very heavily on him. So far, if he is, the whole concept of this video, how Charlie manipulated the waitress, I thought he would be showing more things of like how he was stalking her and like replacing some of her things and like make sure her bike doesn't get stolen, I think he said in one episode. This is more just like things like failed attempts to go with her again. And it's like this manipulation is at an all-time zero. It's like not working at all.
Charlie essentially has to break the waitress's heart in order to...
Can you call it manipulation if you do it a bunch of times but it never works?
Redirect her desire for revenge towards him. As Dee then relays the foundation that the best way to get back at Dennis for everything he's done is to sleep with Charlie. Although this was undeniably a sadistic game of tit for tat, Charlie actually risked a lot here, as it easily could have backfired if his mother had actually been attracted to Dennis. But luckily she wasn't. However, his plan still didn't pay off, as the waitress decided to sleep with Frank instead of him, as that way she went for someone's older parent, just like Dennis did. As for her, Charlie never even enters the equation. It's all about Dennis, leaving Charlie behind as the most heartbroken of everyone, despite being the mastermind behind the entire plan. Now, you might question why Charlie is so certain that this average alcoholic waitress is the love of his life. Surely if a better option came along, he'd grab it with both hands. No. But in the episode where Dee and Charlie find love, we see that although the rich, good-looking siblings who the gang assumed were simply using them to their own ends, were actually being used by Charlie all along. He just wanted to make it seem as if he was finally moving on with someone better, so that the waitress would feel a sense of loss and thus value him more. Meaning he was willing to throw away
Again, the context of that was Frank was also trying to be the stalker for Charlie, but actively making her life even worse than what Charlie was. So she was also just kind of looking for, and she thought it was Charlie just messing with her. So she was looking for Charlie in a sense. But Charlie was also doing his tactic at the same time. It was like a double-sided attack, you know. Frank was doing his thing, and that was driving the waitress wild, and then Charlie was also doing the jealous thing, and that was making her even crazier. She was actually going crazy.
Real chance with the beautiful daughter of one of the wealthiest families in Philly, just for the waitress to lower her restraining order from 100 feet to 50. Because Charlie actually values how hard he has to work for the waitress, as opposed to it coming easy.
A quality woman doesn't do that. She doesn't say yes right away. She says no to a man for years, like 10 years.
Maybe he feels this way after seeing his mother let man after man into her life and wishing she was more selective. But whatever his reasoning, this episode made it clear that he only has eyes for the waitress, and all of the other superficial qualities that people normally value mean nothing to him. But after 12 years of pining after her with no symptoms of success, he finally resorts to lowering her self-esteem in order to elevate himself. Clearly seeming desperate and putting her on a pedestal wasn't working. So this time Charlie invites her over, paying her $1 for every minute of her time to give her a cold dose of reality. He lays out that through spying on her, he knows she loves children, yet her life is not on course to ever have any. She's gone from waiting tables to having struggles with alcohol to now living in a women's shelter. On this trajectory, she'll end up old and withered and drinking herself to death. Whereas if she chooses a life with him, they can live off Frank's money and have babies. While this manipulative maneuver may not have initially worked, as she correctly identified he was just hurling insults at her, it still did the job of lowering her self-esteem just enough to question why Charlie doesn't want someone better, as she's clearly a mess. So notice how he's reframed his unwavering love and devotion as something actually appealing. Because if her life is such a chaotic mess, then he's the steady and stable force she needs to be there for her through thick and thin. This finally convinces the waitress that Charlie is the man for her, and after over a decade of chasing, stalking, and scheming,
I do remember this. So this is just based off this episode, because also there was some other things going on in this episode. Dennis wasn't there. This is already at the point where Dennis had left went off to do his own thing for a bit with his family. Canonically, non-canonically, he wanted to do more of his other show. I think it was like AP Teacher or something. It was a decent show, not bad. I don't know why it's not on anymore. But Dennis wasn't there. Then they have the Dennis doll. She still ends up sleeping with the Dennis, the dummy doll that looked like Dennis.
Sleeps with him,
crazy,
which he describes as amazing. But the moment he finally gets what he wants, he no longer values it. And suddenly the love goggles he's always viewed her through start to fade away. Now she's just a demanding partner with a short fuse who's still more attracted to Dennis. This isn't even the first time Charlie saw past his love goggles, as when he falsely believed he was taking medication that made him 7 times smarter, he instantly started viewing the supposed love of his life as lowbrow and beneath him.
This isn't over until I say it's over!
So while Charlie may have always believed he was waiting for the right person to finally give him the love he needs, it turns out that he actually prefers idealizing things in his imagination than experiencing them in reality. And all of the obsessive lies and harassment he put the waitress through for more than a decade was really just another drug he was addicted to huffing on. A story he enjoyed telling himself to give his life meaning. But in the end, it turns out that the person he was deceiving the most was always himself.
I don't know. I feel like he actually does have feelings for her, but again, he idealizes her, which means he loves the idea of her. It's just the actual reality of her is when he starts to, like, both of those moments were 2 moments, the moments where he takes the pills and then they're having a conversation, and then also the moment where, they sleep together, are 2 moments, the only 2 moments on the show I believe I can remember, where she actually is like giving him a real side of herself versus the part of her that's just, hey, get out of my face, get out of here, I don't want to be around you, just rejection. She's showing herself, but he's not used to that. He's so unused to it that's like he never even thought about that. He never idolized that part of her, which is like he only likes the part that he idolizes, and then the real side, he's just like, oh, wait, this is how you really are? No, not for me. So it's a weird thing for Charlie. What time is it? Okay. I feel like I'm getting a little bit tired. So I'm going to go ahead and call it here. Again, shout outs to Just an Observation. I'm going to go ahead and subscribe to him right now. Not going to have notifications on though. But shout outs to Just an Observation. I'm going to be doing another live stream probably I want to say this Friday or Saturday. And this Alex Bale video will be on the list. So we're going to be watching Alex Bale coming up in the next couple of days. And then this actual live stream, these videos will be coming out also as well. But guys, if you made it this far in the video, I just want to say, as always, thank you for watching this long. I appreciate you. And as always, I love you. Bye.